Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing our build of the Estes Pro Series version of the Nike Smoke. And it is time to do, hopefully, the last round of construction here. So this is another epoxy episode, for what it's worth. So I've got my glove ready and all that good stuff. But before we do that, there are a couple other things that I want to do first. And part of it involves how this is going to attach to a launch rod. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to use both a combination of rail buttons here. This is the underside of the rail button, and also the launch lugs that came with the kit. That's these, and these work on a quarter inch rod. So I'm going to put both of them on. Again, as I had mentioned, I've drawn lines here in order to do that. The instructions say that for the, I'm actually turn this over, for the lugs, I am going to, let's try it the other direction here. I'm going to put these on this line at 1/2 inch and 13.5 inches. So I'm going to measure that off right there. 13.5 inches is up here. That's pretty long. I'm going to do something similar with the lugs, but the restricting factor here is how far can I get my hand up this tube. And I think I can get it to about 13.5 as well. So I'm going to, fingers crossed, I'm going to do the same thing here. Now the bottom button is somewhat constrained in ways that the top isn't. We'll see that here in a moment. In fact, I've actually put the pilot hole in, and to do that I just use this push pin here. It's easy enough. It's not at 1/2 inch, so I just punched a hole through the tube right here. I'm going to use a drill to actually drill that out later, but this has to go on the underside, and it's blocked, of course, by this part of the motor mount. And as it stands right now, this doesn't quite fit in the whole way. There's a little bit of overlap, so I used this as kind of a template, and I punched a hole right through the middle of it in the tube. So that's about as good as that's going to get. Meanwhile, the other hole up here, that shouldn't be a problem. I'm just going to punch a hole in here. Again, these are pilots. I will drill them out later. But on the underside of this, then, these guys are going to get epoxied in place. The instructions actually, they go for CA instead. I don't think it really matters, honestly. It shouldn't make much of a difference. CA would certainly be easier, but I'm using epoxy anyway, so I might as well. Alright, anyway, the fins. The fins, remember there's one fin, that's this one, that is not super great, and I've marked off an X right here on the launch, not the launch, the engine tube here. So that's how I know this one goes in here. A little test fit to make sure it goes in the whole way, and it's a bit of a snug fit, but it does fit, so that's good. So I have to come out, which is, there we go, a bit of a challenge. The other ones, if I really want to, I can test fit them as well. Probably wouldn't be the world's worst idea, just to make sure. And I don't need to do any like last minute sanding or other adjustments. And do make sure that they're going in right, because there's like an up and a down. This one is not cooperating as well as it could. Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out what's going on with this one. It looks like, I don't know, the tube is a little, not the tube, the mount on this side is a little bit off to this side, but honestly it shouldn't make that much of a difference. Let's just make sure I'm putting it in the right place. There we go. Yeah, that's better. It's not in the whole way, but it shouldn't. Well, that's actually not far enough. There we go. Alright. Fits, just required some brute force. So this is going to be fun construction. Alright, so time for the epoxy. Again, I've got 5 minutes to do this. before the epoxy starts to truly set. I don't need all that much. This time the epoxy is, well, I'm going to put it here and some here and here, and then it also wants me to, again, it's calling for CA, but I'm not going to use CA. It wants me to put some on this face as well. I mean, you can do that. Doesn't hurt, I guess. I actually am going to go for the double glove approach today because I have a feeling like stuff's going to get kind of smeared. So let's go for 2 gloves this time, and I might end up having to just kind of brush this, not brush it, smooth it out with my finger anyway. I'd rather not do that, but I have a feeling I'm going to end up pushing some epoxy around. And I've got a paper towel ready should I need it. Oops. But hopefully it won't need it. Alright. Let's make up the epoxy. Again, it's binary, so it takes 2 ingredients. And again, this is not something you should mess around with. It is nasty stuff. You can develop a lifelong allergy to it if you are not careful, hence the gloves. I don't know if I'm allergic to it or not, and I don't want to find out. There we go. And I've got my dowel. I mix it up. This might, again, that wasn't really very much. I don't need very much, but hopefully this is adequate. Alright, I'm going to put the fin that is the roughest one on first. That's this guy here. So again, I'm going to load up my dowel here. And I'm just going to brush this stuff pretty much all over. Yeah, I think I'm going to need, this might be good enough for like half of my epoxy utilization for this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's get that out of the way. And in it goes. Push it down as far as I can get it. That's as far as I can get it. Alright, I'm actually going to use the stick here rather than my finger. And I'm going to try to just smear, spread whatever's left that oozed out consistently. Alright, and also there's a blob here that I'm going to dab up, or try to dab up. Alright, okay, we shouldn't have to worry about the alignment too much because of the through the fin construction, so I will come back to it after the fins are on and check. Hopefully it will look pretty straight, pretty consistent. I have high hopes. But again, this is a timed operation here, so I do need to get through this as quickly as I can. Alright. I would not, by the way, want to do this with CA. CA sets very, very quickly. And these are pretty snug. Some of them have been rather difficult to get into place. I would not want to have to fight with the CA glue in the 5 seconds you have before it sets forever. So yeah, I'm happier to do this with epoxy than with CA. Alright, there we go. This is going to have to be pitched too, of course. 2 down, 2 to go. Okay. So far, so good. I think I might have enough for the fins, but I don't know that I'm going to have enough to do the little launch lugs, even though they take practically nothing, so I might end up having to CA them in place. We'll see. If I need a teeny bit more epoxy, I could certainly do that too. Alright. Unfortunately, from here on, I can't just push against the ground. There we go. Right. Clean up my mess. Alright, and one more. How exciting. I can feel the epoxy is starting to set. No idea how far into the video I am at this point, but I must be getting pretty close to my 5 minutes. I'm also running kind of low. So I'm like literally scraping the bottom of this at this point. This is it. If I do need some more, I'm going to have to make a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be necessary for the fins. Take some of this. There's a little bit of excess there. And I think I'll just go with CA, because that's easy enough to put on those launch lugs. Alright, last fin. And in place. Okay. There we go. And let's see if there's anything that needs to be cleaned up here. Actually, probably because I was running a little low, there don't seem to be any obvious globs that need to be dealt with. Okay, so that's the fins in place. I might as well, yeah, I'm not going to epoxy those lugs, but I will apply some CA to get them in place. Again, I'm a little hesitant to do this because CA is unforgiving. So if I don't get these set how I want them first try, well, that could be problematic. Alright, so I'm going to be extra careful trying to line these up. First one's good. First one isn't really the problem though, right? Because the first one, well, it'll probably line up with pretty much anything. The question is, will the second one line up? So I'm going to look down the barrel of this as I'm trying to get this in place. This is not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do. I think that's how I want it. Okay, I haven't pushed down yet. Alright, that looks pretty good. So you can have a look. It's probably hard to see from that vantage point, but it looks passable. Now, since again, time is a ticking here, I do want to check my fin alignment. So I'm going to try to center this on the grid line of my cutting board here and just take a peek. It looks pretty good. The nice thing about doing a build that uses through the fin is the alignment of the fins is a lot easier to handle. And that does seem to be the case here. I don't think I really need to do anything. They look fine, which is nice, because I don't have a lot of time to worry about that anyway. Alright, so that was always fun working with epoxy, and then CA is even less forgiving, so nice to get that done. The question now is what comes next. So the fins, well, this one isn't quite as flush as the others. Most of the others look like they're pretty good. I think I'm going to end up putting fillets on these. The instructions do call for fillets, and they call for just wood glue. So I'm going to let the epoxy cure, and then I'm going to put wood glue fillets. The wood glue fillets aren't going to do much to hold things together, right? They're more for aerodynamics, I guess, than anything else at this point. So that's fine. You don't need to watch that. That's pretty straightforward. I guess the next thing that needs to be done is painting. And since these are plastic fins, I don't need to go through the rigmarole of my usual sanding and all that stuff. I am, I think, going to put some sanding sealer on in an attempt to get rid of the grain or the tube of the wood. Or not wood, the tube, the spiral of the tube. There we go. So I guess we'll do that in the next video, put the fillets on and see about the grain. Alright, or the tube. So, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.